Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Red Ice Radio. My name is Henrik, and the website is redice.tv. We are speaking with Tobias Lindberg and Bechir Rabani. Tobias is from Sweden, and Bechir has been living in Sweden for most of his life. And we're going to speak about the deteriorating situation in the most populated Nordic country, the upside-down political world that has been pushed by the liberally insane Stockholm elite in the last 20-30 years. They have turned their back on their own people while importing hundreds of thousands, now totaling in the millions over the last years. There are an endless amount of troubling signs that our country is in free fall and that the people have given up. But there are flickers of hope that are beginning to rise as we speak. And once we have the momentum and once the consensus has been reached on what we need to do, the correction of this error, if you will, can go very, very fast. Interesting show ahead. Stay tuned. Welcome, gentlemen. Great to have you both here. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. It's good to speak with both of you.
It's an honor, Henrik. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Henrik.
Very good. So why don't we kind of go through one by one here first so our audience can get to know you a little bit and know some of the background. I guess we can begin with you, Tobias. You started informationskriget.se. You can tell us how long ago that was, but that translates roughly to information war. So it's kind of, was it an InfoWars inspired kind of endeavor, or tell us a bit more about the site?
Yes, it was inspired by InfoWars. But I have had a blog for several years before that, but then I changed the name on it to informationskriget.se. So I have always written about what I read and such. So
how long ago was it? When did you start it?
The information war was just in the end of 2014, I think. But I have had a blog since 2008 or something. So
excellent. Tell us a bit just about kind of what some of the, I guess, changes to a certain extent that you've gone through. Maybe we've all done that to a certain extent, I think, in the alternative media. As the world has changed, we have changed. But what did you kind of begin focusing on, and how did that transform over time?
Yeah, I was a lefty from the beginning, so I have done quite a journey. And then I went from quite a radical leftist to be a libertarian, and then now I'm more of a nationalist or something. So it's from one extreme to another.
Well, that's good. We need extremes. Actually, I usually like to say that it's the world that we live in that is extreme, and it's actually we are trying to balance it out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and when I was a leftist, for 4 years, I was a member in a socialist party called Rättvisepartiet Socialisterna. So it's quite extreme. In English, it's the Social Justice Party.
Oh boy! Oh god!
Yeah, yeah, I know.
So tell us just how did you get out of that? Was there one thing, or was there kind of a few things that really just made the cup flow over eventually?
It was several things. Because I was quite active in the party. I sat in the municipal council in Haninge, where we lived then. So, but it was when we had children, our first child, our daughter. She got a side effect from vaccination, and we didn't like how the daycare was, and so I get very critical about these things, and I start to read about that. And my party, so the Socialist Justice Party, they love daycare, but so in time I felt more and more it was wrong. So it was a step by step, and when I read about these things, I found writers like John Taylor Gatto. He's critical of formal schooling, and he's a proponent of homeschooling and such. And then I start to listen at podcasts like the School Sucks podcast with the Brett Binot, I think he's,
That's right. Yep.
You have had him on your show.
That's right. Even John Taylor Gatto many years ago. Yeah.
You have?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, then I have to listen on that.
That was a great. I mean, he's great. He's done some amazing things.
But I think he's sick now or something.
Yes, unfortunately he is, and I hope he's going to pull through. I mean, he's an older guy, so time gets us all there.
Fantastic, in that he write about it's critics of formal schooling.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Tobias, we'll definitely get into many more of the things you've raised here already in terms of Sweden, what's happening there, and everything. But let's just switch over to Bechir real quick here and talk a little bit with him as well. You're Syrian. You're living in Sweden. Your parents came to Sweden. You can tell us the story there, Bechir, yourself. You run a blog, a website today called Kristallklart, which means basically crystal clear. Tell us how you ended up, in this side of the fence, if you will.
Basically, a lot of us that comes from the Middle East, we have it in our blood to be political because a lot of stuff is going on there. So when you come to another country, you get the politics with you at home. So for me, my dad was the biggest inspiration and is the biggest inspiration because he's very political about everything. So my family, we came first from Palestine to Syria, and from Syria to Sweden in the beginning, middle of the 80s. That was my trip to Sweden.
So you were fairly young at that point.
Yeah.
How do you remember when you came?
Yeah, I remember. I have a very good memory. I remember a lot of things, and it's sad to see how Sweden has changed from that time to where we stand today. So yeah, I remember a lot.
So how would you describe this to someone to kind of, I guess, to paint a picture of your perspective on this being, of course, from coming from Palestine and Syria, having roots, in the region in the Middle East, at the same time being a proponent of Swedish nationalism and everything. Are people confused by this in any way? Tell us more about how you ended up there.
Basically, it started out with the Middle Eastern wars and Palestine, and as more as I read about it, all the dots connected. Like I saw a lot of things are going on in Europe that was happening in our countries, like with the propaganda and turning the people against each other and blah blah blah. It was like the same script, but in another way. It was like I could see it very, very easy, but it was not easy to tell the Swedes what was going on because nobody wants to believe it. Like in Sweden, you live in a little bubble, and it's very hard to get people out from the bubble.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't have to tell me about that. It's I know, definitely. So when did you start the website? I mean, you post a lot on Facebook too. You have a lot of followers there and everything. When did you start doing that?
When I was in school, my teacher always told me I have a talent in typing, but I never cared about that so much. But when I grew older, I began to talk to my father a lot, and the politics, I mixed it with my talent in typing, and I just noticed that a lot of people liked what I wrote because it's like I was writing their thoughts. And a lot of people are following me, and the blog is pretty new, but it's very, very. A lot of people is visiting it every week, that was my platform, the blog. It's like 2 years old or something, but I started out on Facebook first, like 6 years ago or something.
Very good. So just tell us a little bit more about your family. Are they religious, Muslim, Christian? What's the background?
Yeah, my father and mother they are Muslims. I come from a Muslim family, a Sunni. I don't know how to say it in English. Sunni.
Sunni, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Sunni. Yeah, exactly. And I was raised in the Muslim way and a lot of culture, Arabic culture way. But for me, if you believe in something, you have to follow it 100%. I don't. A lot of Muslims today, they say they follow Islam, but they follow half of it, and I can't live my life that way. So I jumped off that carousel of religion. I like to have my senses clean and open for a lot of information, because if you go the religious way, your path become very, very limited. You're not allowed to think in a different perspective or way. You have to do like everybody else does, and blah blah blah. And it just doesn't fit the way I live and I think. But my father and mother are still practicing the religion.
Are they disappointed with you because of you bailing out of it?
No, it's not like we don't talk loud about, but they see that I don't follow anything, but we don't like talk about it out loud. It's just like 90% of all the Muslims in Europe or West, they don't follow Islam. It's just a hypocrite form of Islam. That's why you see them praying one week and chasing women the next week. That's like it's 50-50 religion today, and that's why the religion have a very bad reputation, because a lot of idiots are representing it.
Yeah, of course, exactly. All right, well, it's very interesting. Yeah, let's definitely kind of get into the details of this here and discuss this a bit more. But Tobias, maybe we can talk with you a little bit more about how you would describe kind of. It's difficult to do, and I've struggled for this for years, to be honest, of trying to describe the situation in Sweden to people from the outside, if you will, and just to paint a picture of how bad things really are. I mean, we're struggling on one end with the environment of the Swedish people themselves, which is, as you said, Bechir, they're locked in a bubble in many regards. They're very closed in. They're very, conformity levels is very high, etc. At the same time, our way of life, the way we are, and us as a people, is also under attack by our very own politicians and the ruling elite and everything else. But how would you paint the picture? How would you describe Tobias, for someone who hasn't maybe been to Sweden, who doesn't really know what's going on there? What should they know?
Yeah, the difference is huge. When I lived in Stockholm, the larger cities has come a lot further in the change than in the countryside where I live now. So when I was younger, I didn't thought so much about how fast the change was. But now, since I moved here to a smaller town, I have seen a real huge change. Just the five year I lived here. So. And especially the last year, a couple of years ago, you didn't see so many people with foreign descent in the town, but now they are everywhere, and you see women with hijabs and little girls with hijabs, and just this last year has since the migration invasion started. After the picture with the island and such, so it's a real great change. So.
Yeah, tremendous immigrant wave into Sweden, into Germany, into many other of these primarily Northern European countries. So on one end, that's the problem in itself. How would you say that things are when it comes to trying to alert people to the danger? I mean, we know that we have a global elite above our heads. We know that they have a very different plan than what most people are aware of when it comes to the future of, of course, the entire world. But if we, for the moment, just focus on the European people, we know that there's a tremendous change in the population replacement levels that is happening right now. How would you say things are if you attempt and try to talk with people? Have things opened up? Is it a little bit more easier because of the migrant invasion today as opposed to maybe a few years ago?
Yes, it is. It is, but it's still hard. Most people don't want to talk about such things. So you can talk about it with some people, but most of them not. And on internet, it's maybe a little bit easier, but in real, when you just talk to people in real life, it's not very easy at all. My blog has grown a lot. Just this last year, from maybe 500 or something a week to 7,000 or something a week.
Nice.
So yeah, it has been a real big difference there.
Real boost. Yeah, so you're noticing a trend change there for sure.
Yeah.
Bechir, what about you? I mean, what's your take on this and of what's happening right now? And again, I think you're from a unique perspective because of your background and everything else. How do you see the recent invasion? And I mean, you can tie this into obviously what you're seeing with the war in Syria and everything else, and kind of what has triggered that and what's behind that. But how would you describe the situation in Sweden for people?
Well, actually, for me, I grew up with a lot of immigrants, so I have like a feet in both worlds. So it's like, for me, it's faster to see it than the regular Swede who don't have so much, who don't move so much in those areas. But the situation is insane today, and we're like talking about a 2 years change. I mean, like 10 years more of this, and the Sweden will be knocked out for good. It's total chaos, and even those them that are coming now, it's like 20-25% from Syria. The mostly of them are Afghani men or like men from Africa. So all this bullshit that the media says, you like with images of children with a teddy bear in their hand and like dirty face, and that's just bullshit, because like that's not the reality. The reality picture is men who come in as children and like take advantage of the whole country's system.
Quite born. Beard kids, right?
Yeah, we call them bear kids. and it's insane because and the Swedes, the problem is like the globalists are playing two cards right now. They're playing the anti-racist card and they're playing the liberal card, because they know that who don't want to be free and who don't want to fight evil. So basically, with those two cards, they get all the people aboard, and the people think like they're fighting for something good, but in reality, they're digging their own grave. So the game is like perfectly set for that.
What's the intention there, do you think? Because I see, Bechir, that this is creating, as you say, utter chaos. I think I've seen Sweden transform from a highly functioning, high trust society, almost to the point of our detriment. I mean, I've speculated maybe it's the environment that we've created, unfortunately, that led to the situation we are now. I don't know, that could be argued considering the fact that we have globalists manipulating us on top of it, but we've had a very, almost like a familiar environment. It was the Sweden was like your extended family in a regard, and that's going out the window. We're living in a very different Sweden today.
Yeah, exactly. Because now that's the whole agenda. It's like taking in our cultures, and meanwhile, all the security service and police are being ordered to watch all the nationalists, all the Swedes from getting together. Meanwhile, on the other end, they give our cultures free room to play free, to expand, to evolve fast in the country. And so now Sweden is becoming what the people fled from in the beginning.
Right.
Because Sweden can't handle that much pressure of people. So like the pressure of people have like run around the integration process. So now everything go backwards. You like Tobias said, you see people with hijab and burqa all over the place, and like you have separate bath times for girls and men. You tell women how to dress, and like tell women which time they can go out and what they should do not get jumped on, and like so the whole country is like forming after minorities. The country is getting integrated to our culture and not the other way around.
Yeah, that's true. And our expression of being tolerant is simply backing down and giving room to a foreign culture.
Of course it does, because Sweden's last war was like in the 1700s, the Norwegian, I don't know what name, Norwegian Felttogskriget. I don't know what's called in English, but like in the 1700s. So you can imagine how long time the Swedes have living in peace and living without violence. Peace in that, and if you live in peace that long, it makes the people naive. It makes the people to lower the guards. A lot of Swedes think like they think that all the people of the world have the same thinking as the Swedes. Like everybody's peaceful and everybody wants good. So what happened is you have a country with a peace mentality, and you bring in people with a survival mentality. So what happens is the survival mentality will keep eating from the hands from the peace and peace people. So it's the opposite sides are getting mixed together, if you understand what I mean.
Of course. And what do you guys think is the intention here from the elite as well? Because they are obviously, taking advantage of this situation. And as soon as you have kind of some form of, or some level of exhibiting resistance to this and saying, well, this is getting a little bit too far, we should take it easy or slow down, the racist card is out, immediately you're a Nazi, you're a hater and all these things. And it's worked relatively good up to this point, I would say, to basically stop us from posing any kind of resistance to it. But what's their intention? They must be aware of this fact that this was going to happen all along. I don't think that this is a mistake, that it's like, whoops, this was a weird side effect of everything, right?
No, this is not a mistake, because what they do now is like, when they keep an eye on the white people, it's like keeping them in a cage, and you keep the cage locked until they witness the country getting destroyed and raped, and the wild dog in that cage gets so mad, and when the timing hits, they're gonna unlock the cage, and the Swedes will be, and the Europeans will be so mad that there will not be a chance to talk. So what you will have is like a big war in every country between immigrants and between white people. I think that is the basic principle of the plan, to create a war inside the country and to break the national state of every country. So open up the borders, destroy the countries, and then offer a saving package of some sort.
Do you agree with that, Tobias?
Yeah, totally. It's like that. Yeah.
So is this, I've speculated that they wanted to try to create kind of a similar situation that we saw in Bosnia and Serbia and Kosovo. That kind of, there was a small experiment for what they wanted to do in the larger European continent, and that's what we're seeing unfolding right now. I've always feared this aspect myself, not that we're going to put up any opposition. We have to do this, of course. What else can we do, right? But that they were seeking to basically turn on Europe, that the rest of the international community, if Europe started to kind of rise up on its feet again and starting to defend itself, that the rest of the international community militarily would actually go into Europe and basically finish off, if you will, the white people problem as they see it.
Yeah, that's where NATO comes in the picture, because if you look at Sweden, and I'm very sure this is not unique for Sweden, but the police force in Sweden are very, very weak. Like the police have no powers. Like we have 55 areas where the police has lost power, and they're becoming more and more weak. A lot of police are quitting their jobs, and at the same time the country is getting more violent. So at the end, we will beg for NATO to come in to Sweden and save us.
That's interesting. Yeah. Let's talk a bit about some of the cases that we've seen bloomed up here recently, because this is a good example of the environment right now. And then later we can talk about, what we should do about this, how we can oppose this and all these important questions. But one of the cases we can discuss a bit first is, of course, what happened in Gotland. This is the island off of the east coast in Sweden. It's the largest island that we have. We had a gang rape of a woman in a wheelchair, and what ended up happening is that the prosecutor actually dropped the ball completely on these men. That we say alleged rape when it comes to the situation, because we are not 100% certain. There hasn't been detailed yet, who did it, etc. But we know that it did happen. But basically, those that were the suspects were released without any kind of level of, while being reprimanded, being punished, being prosecuted in some way. So what happened is we had a large, demonstration in Gotland. A lot of people came out. They were walking late at night and everything else. There was even actually some that started to go after, I forget his name now, but the prosecutor's house. And I believe that they spray painted it. I believe someone threw stones at his house and stuff like that. And this is kind of a different, for being Sweden, this is a little bit of a different environment. Something else is happening here. in regards to the level of protest or whatever. But Tobias, what do you know about the case and how things have unfolded in Gotland so far?
Yes, in the first, they wasn't totally released. They are still suspects, but they was released from the arrest, and then they has been moved away from Gotland, from the island, to keep them safe from the local citizens of Gotland. And the people who went to the prosecutor, they didn't throw stones at his house. It was on an asylum center. Someone
all right,
throw rocks. Yeah, but it wasn't so bad at the prosecutor. It was someone had put some.
Yeah, they've like closed off one of the areas around the house, I believe, right?
Yeah, with a plastic tape where it stood "Do not enter" or something. This is the Nordic resistance movement area or something, and that was all. And for that they arrested one person from the Nordic resistance movement, the one who confronted the suspects when they was released.
Yeah, let's just actually listen to that a little bit. I have some of the clip, the video here.
Gripna eller?
Jag kan inte så mycket prata svenska.
Okay, are you one of those guys who was arrested for the rape? Have you been with the police?
No, no. How you back?
He's kind of filming straight down with this camera, confronting the guys.
You sure?
Huh?
Are you sure?
Sure.
No, are you sure?
Yes.
Yes. You haven't been with your friends at the police station?
Jag åker hemma och de sätter fri.
Okay.
Men jag har...
They released you?
Ja.
Okay. Yesterday or today?
Nej, onsdag.
Wednesday.
4 dagar jag där.
And what happened in the video, while we're just listening to this, is that they were protected by civilian police officers as well. So there was actually two Swedish cops that were there basically protecting them, Tobias.
Yeah.
From basically making sure that, nothing like this would happen. It's pretty remarkable, isn't it? It's what you said before, Bechir. It's like they're actually worried more about those people who are concerned with what happened than the actual crime in itself.
Yeah. That you see it everywhere. Every time something happened, the focus is like on the perpetrators, and the security is on the nationalism, on all the Swedes. They don't want the people to come together. That's the biggest fear of the globalists, to keep them away from each other. So that's why every time something happens, the focus is on the perpetrators. Like now they have today they're gonna have a demonstration. The leftists are gonna have a demonstration about sexism and racism for what happened in the island. So they're not at all focusing on the victim at all. It's like they want to fight racism when a girl gets raped.
Yeah, screw the woman that was gang raped and is sitting in a wheelchair who can't even defend herself. I mean, this. Oh my God, it's gone very, very far, hasn't it?
It's because the leftists are chicken shit. Because minorities never attack other minorities. Because then all the victim bullshit will collapse. They always have to attack the white man, the majority. They never attack each other. The feminism, the leftists never dare to confront Islam, never dares to confront immigration, because then their whole superhero agenda will collapse.
Yeah, I mean, they're just concerned with fighting Nazism, right? I mean, Hitler is practically coming back, and he's
of course, because it's a fucking joke. It's like this whole Nazism or racism. It's their whole identity. They have to keep that fire burning, because if that fire gets blown out, then their whole identity collapses, and then they're just empty shells. It's like they have to keep racism exist, because their whole identity and their whole narcissism are connected to that racism and Nazi exists.
Yeah, it makes them feel good about themselves fighting something.
Exactly.
It makes them feel for the first time in their lives they're doing something that really matters. But my point has always been, if they were truly afraid of something like this existing in the world, well, they are actually the ones who are helping to create it and bringing it into the world. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep.
Yes.
It was the same situation in World War II when Germany was in the hand of communists for a shorter period. The same pattern. The communists, the leftists destroyed the society, and from nowhere this hero came. That people wanted a hero, a leader to lead them, and he came. And this is the same situation today. Exactly same situation.
Yeah, it's very definitely very worrying in terms of the development and you know, how they're seeking to use this. I ultimately, of course, see actions of life and fighting back as positive, you know, signs basically of saying that there's something left here still to fight for. Actually, let's listen to the last portion of the clip as well, because this has to do with, you know, what I just talked about in terms of, you know, resistance and people actually fighting back. So he ends up, you know, confronting these guys eventually. Let's just listen to that.
Is this your friends?
Yeah.
Did you also have been with the police?
Yes, we...
Yes?
Yeah,
Yes, you are fucking scum, okay? Fucking scum is what you are.
Why?
Okay? Leave this fucking country, you filthy animals. You're not welcome here.
And then you hear, "What are you doing?" in the background there. And this is, I think, is it the security guards that shows up at this point too?
Yeah, it is one from Securitas, I think. So.
Oh my God! And what happened? I heard on the Nordic Resistance Movement, they have a radio show. I heard an interview with this guy. What happened is that the police actually started to harassing this guy. I don't know if I think they took him into hospital for like being drug tested. They did all these things. Did you guys follow up on this of what happened to him?
Yeah, I looked a little bit on it, and they took him to the police station and drug tested him, and they said that he was
affected, or he was under the influence of something.
Yeah, affected from some narcotics or something. But then they afterward they drive him back to his car and let him go home with the car. So it was just something they found up to harass him. So.
You know what I think, Tobias? I think that they were so shocked to seeing someone really fighting back on this
doing
level.
Something.
He must be under the influence of drugs or some kind of, you know,
maybe.
what do you call it? Like steroids or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, maybe. And then they arrested him on the early Sunday morning and took him to the police station.
Of course, because he's a racist, right?
Yeah. Something like that.
And
he's white. That's the right word.
of course,
Yeah.
he's white, and he's
white,
like not backing down. That's the crime.
No,
right
he's
there.
right. Yeah.
And he's doing something. So yeah.
And also that they created a funding for him on Facebook where he could give a little money that would go to maybe his trial stuff and everything like that.
And it hasn't been shut down yet.
No, not yet.
All right, well that's good.
A good thing with this movie clip is that in the beginning he really asked the suspect first to make sure that he knows that is the right one, and the suspect admits that he was arrested and was let go this morning. So this is the one, the police, the suspects of the gang rape. So in some papers they say that they don't know who the suspect is, and we can't know if they are refugees or something. But they admitted on this film clip.
So he's basically doing a level of investigation that the others haven't.
Yeah.
What's going to happen at this point? I mean, are they going to be charged with anything? Is it because usually what people need to understand too when it comes to Sweden is that many of these, you know, cases that occurs, many of these things, it all takes place kind of behind locked doors, so to speak. It's very it's very hush hush. It's very quiet. I think they're so concerned with the organized backlash against these kinds of things. So they basically simply are willing to cover up and to basically spit in the face of the victim, which is kind of weird, because you'd think, in this world we live in, where the victim is like the highest individual on the pole, if you will, they would venerate the victim. They would make sure that the victim is like taken care of, if you will, and that the justice is declared. But not in this case. It seems that as long as you're an immigrant, right, then you're higher up on that ladder, and it doesn't matter what you do. You can basically do anything you want, because we don't want to be charged with being racists at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because in Sweden, like every of us in Sweden, we go like in a school that is very, very much to the left. So they brand all of us with brown colors like victims. So all the Swedes think every brown man is a victim from war, is suffering. So their instinct thoughts will be like, oh, it's a minority, he's suffering, we must help him. Remember Auschwitz, remember Hitler, because it's the brainwash is sitting very, very deep in the Swedes. They can't feel like empathy for the white people, because that's how they are brainwashed. But as soon as something happens to us, they immediately wake up, because then racism is on the way, and the new Hitler is on the way. That's only when it counts, because the law is only made for the white man. It's like every time a white man gets into trial, he gets jailed, or he gets something for it. Like even for using a word like nigger or whatever, you get on trial right away. You can get in jail for it. Meanwhile, if you gang rape a Swedish girl and you're immigrant, the chance are huge you get free. It's like, just say, oh, I come from a war, I didn't know better. Then the Swedes will say, oh, he's from a war, maybe we should give him an iPhone and pay his driver's license, because that's the situation in Sweden today. If I didn't have any moral in my body, I could become millionaire on my color of my skin. If I didn't have any moral in my body, in my genes.
It's a very interesting point. I saw some of the other women actually talking about this. They actually did a comparison when it comes to rape. I mean, first of all, they denounce that there's any kind of differences between people. So either if you recognize that there's difference in background or genetics, or simply geography, which has created, a different type of mentality, they refuse to see that. So the first level of it is that they blame all men, right? This is just it's a man problem. It's just men. And the other level to this is that they actually say that it's not their fault because they haven't been educated in the proper way, right? So it's all about having, for example, a rape education in Sweden now. So if as long as we can just educate them and tell them that's wrong, that's all we have to do. And it's actually okay that these other people do it, because they just didn't know better. And that's why it's worse if a Swedish man rapes who has already been taught. That's actually worse than if a non-Swedish man rapes because they haven't been told about it. I've actually heard these arguments.
Yeah, it's true. The main focus is to never to criticize minorities. That's why always they like point at all the men, on the weather, or maybe they can point on everything around, but never point on the obvious thing, that it's men from culture where like the women have the same value as garbage. I come from the Arabic culture. I know how our culture is. In like 12 countries in the Middle East, you kill gay people for being gays. You think like they're gonna be much nicer to women? Then go take your left white ass and go to our countries and check for yourself. It's like it's everywhere. So if you import men from that culture and that mentality to a country where the woman goes like is free, who dress half naked, what do you think that the final result would be? It's like you don't even need to be a genius to figure that out. It's like bringing a wild pit bull from a wild area and put him in a cage with like 10 peaceful chihuahuas. What would be the ending of those chihuahuas? It's just like, it's logic. You don't even have to be smart to figure that out.
it's almost like it's the leftists that are the most annoying aspect. I mean, as you know, much as it it pains me to of course have this enforcement of incompatible cultures and incompatible mentalities smashed together in this way, in this social laboratory, which is Sweden. As much as it pains me to see that, and as much as I know that doesn't work, it's actually the naivety of the lefties and these people who are propagating this, who thinks that it's going to work, which is the most annoying aspect of it. As you say, Bechir, I mean, many of these other people, they just kind of do what they do, right, with what they're used to. But the leftists thinks that these new people are going to come in and they're just going to be good little lefties just like them, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're like importing millions of people to Europe, and like they're gonna just stock them on top of each other and call it multicultural, and that's it. Then everybody gonna hug and kiss, and everything will be like a fairy tale. That's multicultural in their head, because they live far from it. They live in like white areas. They live in areas where there's no refugees, no immigrants. Then it's easy to play a superhero if you don't live next to it. Every one of those white people in front is like from middle class up to upper class people.
Yeah,
they are sitting behind the wheel in a bus where we sit far back on the way down the path of a mountain,
over the cliff. That's right, Tobias.
Yeah, over the cliff.
Any thoughts on this in terms of the mentality of the people we're struggling with we're trying to demonstrate to them basically that there are differences and that many of these cultures are simply incompatible, but it seems very difficult to reach through to them. What gives me hope though is people like yourselves who was a leftist, who managed to see the light, if you will. I mean, far back, I was also a leftist. You kind of, by default, you're a leftist if you grow up in the Swedish cultural environment.
Everyone in Sweden.
Yeah, exactly. But how do we, is it just reality itself that's going to awaken these people? Because if that's the case, I'm afraid that it's going to be too late by that point.
I think it's reality, but it mustn't be so bad. It can be a small thing that wakes up people, and when you see one thing, it's easier to see the next thing, and then it's on your way. So I mean, I change, so I have hope for other people's, and something you have discussed on your podcast, Red Eyes, several times, is that the Swedish is very conformist. So when enough of people start to change, the rest will. I think it's the change gonna come fast when it comes.
Yeah, when it becomes acceptable to criticize and to basically have an opinion which is today's day and age unpopular, that shift is going to occur much quicker than it would in other countries, I think, which is interesting.
Yes, I think, and that's why it's so important to say what you think and to go out, maybe on a blog or on Facebook or on your workplace or something, to say what you think.
Talk with people.
Maybe not everything, but take it stepwise. You have to say something, and when Swedish people are like they are, it's gonna go fast, I think. So.
Yeah, I hope so. What happened in Norrköping, Tobias? There's another story just here today, I believe. Norrköping is to the south of Stockholm. It's more on the east coast. Tell us about this.
Yes, it was now early on Sunday morning. A girl was gang raped by I don't know, but I think it's 3 people. She was only 14 years old. These things happen now every week, and during the summer it was every day under a short period, almost every day. So it's in 1 week it was in 5 days, I think it was 6 gang rapes in Sweden in the end of July.
Amazing.
So it's a couple of maybe 20 or 30, 40 years ago, it maybe was you never heard about gang rapes.
Frankly, I don't think there were any.
No.
Maybe one or two, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe some, but not like now.
No.
Now it's all the time. So it's really
The comedy is like when I get in an argument with a lefty, I always tell them, give me 3 examples where 5 or like a lot of white men gang raped a Muslim girl or gang raped an immigrant girl. If this is a man's problem, there should be 1,000 of cases in the ocean to find. And I said, I give you 30 minutes to find. Give me three cases, and they're like totally silent or they block me. That's the only answer they have because they know it's not a man's problem; it's a cultural problem.
Yeah,
and that is even showed in there have been Swedish studies, something called the Brottsförebyggande rådet, and they have done 2 studies, one in 1996 and one in 2005. And both of these studies shows clearly that rapes are primarily done by immigrants from the Middle East or from Africa. So they are between 4.5 to 7.5 times more likely to be suspected of rape than Swedes.
And also, still, there is a overrepresentation in the statistics of Swedish people, which makes that percentile even higher when you actually adjust for population levels.
Yeah. Nowadays, people with foreign background, I think is about 30% of the population. Now it's very, very many now, and although they are only 30%, they do about 70% of the rapes. So it's a very high overrepresentation.
Absolutely. Now, Bechir, do you ever hear from other fellow immigrants that you're turning your back on them or your group or your own people, that you should, no matter kind of what behavior they exhibit, you should always kind of stand with them and support them? Do you hear that a lot?
Yeah, of course I do, because even if the Swedes get raised and raised to look at us like victims, we are raised to get in the role of a victim. So a lot of immigrants to Sweden, they feel like victim, like, oh, I'm from the ghetto and it's fucked. I can't get out of from the ghetto because it's just like that. They buy this stereotype propaganda that I should be an immigrant feeling sorry for myself and keep eating from the system. But me and a lot of other immigrants refused to be looked at like victims, because our parents came here with nothing. They never started like a Black Lives Matter movement or like a bullshit movement to try to hustle the government for more money. They never did. They came with their head high and they worked hard for it, and they raised us good. So why should I turn on the Swedes, on the Swedish society? It gave me everything. It fed me. It gave me everything. Gave me a future. So yeah, of course I'm like a traitor to many of the immigrants, because according to their script, I should be holding a welcome refugee sign and yelling equality, diversity, blah blah blah. I should like be on all that brainwashed train.
Right, but the one of the most important points I think you mentioned earlier is this aspect that if your family fled from those conditions,
yeah,
by lobbying for more of your own group. I mean, people don't believe this, so I know that it doesn't make sense to them. But my point of view on this is that basically you can't create or you can't maintain, let's say, a first world country if you import a second or third world population, right? That if you change the demographic makeup, you're going to basically create a country which that demographic group comes from.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So you would basically create a situation where more of people from the Middle East, if you will, would create these very conditions that people fled from initially. So I would put you in the bracket of where you're wise enough to understand that if you do value what Sweden offered you, changing that is not going to make things better for you or the other people that are here now.
Of course. That's why I fight for it. It's like my energy is like, my friends have children, my sister have children. Like, I want them to have the same good future that I had in Sweden. It's like, why would I want to destroy that? I mean, like, it's like you say, if you bring third world countries in here, then of course it will turn into a third world country, and that's the whole agenda. The globalists know this. They know that it's not like they picked our countries by accident. No. They knew exactly what they are doing. They know that Muslims is like impossible to integrate to the Swedish society, because they are ready to die for their God. If they're ready to die for their God, it's like nothing will change their thinking. What will happen is Sweden will change to their thinking. So it becomes a country where a lot of us fled from. And that's what's happening today. You're like transferring all the problems over here, which a lot of people run away from. So I don't understand. I don't understand how immigrants like me can just sit and watch this happen in front of their eyes.
It's amazing.
And also it's very important that immigrants stand up and stand next to the Swedes and raise your voice, because when the day comes, the European get pissed off. They're gonna remember because being silent is also an opinion. If I just sit silent, everybody will think I'm on it. I accept it. I approve it. So it's very important that immigrants open their mouth and show the Swedes that not all of us are victims or like want the Sweden to collapse, because a lot of us don't want that. Then they should open their mouth and open it loud, because what I have noticed when I type my text or like talk loud, if I talk, then the Swede rise behind me, because then I will like become a shield against the racism shots. So I just go in the front and the Swedes go behind me. So then the leftists go total synthetic error in their head, because they don't get it, because they think, oh shit, he should be a victim, he should be on our team, then what's he doing with them? So it's become a major error in their head if they see me defending Sweden.
And I would say, sadly, that's true. And when I say that, I don't mean, thank God that there are people like you that speak out, so that we can actually. Yeah. I mean, you're a perfect example for people who need that, first and second step of daring to speak out for their own group. And if they feel, comfortable with the fact that you speak up first, that's excellent. Why not? Let's have it. But it's also this aspect that it's, in my view, at this stage, it's a sign of how weakened they have become mentally, of daring to take their own side, that they somehow must have permission from other people to even just favor their own group, which comes naturally to any other group that is in Sweden right now. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, very.
But I think Bechir, you're sometimes working like what do you call it, an apron or something. If you say it, it's okay, and if I say the same thing, almost nobody dare to push like in Facebook or something. So.
Right, which shows how equal we all are.
Yeah, it's true. Of course, it's true. Because if like black people come together, then it's Black Lives Matter. If gay people come together, then it's Pride. If white people come together after a gang rape, it's the racism. It's Nazis. Because it's so insane. Like we have to look like a joke to the outside world.
We do. Yeah, we do. Unfortunately, we do. It's definitely time to change that. Well, gentlemen, let's take just a short break here in a few minutes. We have much more to talk about. It's very interesting, and there's many more things to kind of pick apart. Talk about culture, talk about Islam a bit more, talking about the mentality of Swedish people. I want to get into what do we do? How do we both wake people up? How do we fight back against this? And in the bigger picture, if the globalists still are kind of on track, if you will, in terms of the developments in Europe right now, what can we do to change that? There's many interesting aspects to that. But let's just kind of plug the websites that you guys have a little bit and make sure that people know where to go. I think both of you primarily write in Swedish, of course. It might be a little bit difficult for our international audience to understand it, but nonetheless, we have a lot of Swedes listening and people can translate and stuff like that. Tobias, tell us about your website and about, I don't know if you have any major things coming up or announcements or changes or anything like that you want to let us know about, but go ahead.
No, I don't have anything special coming up, but it's just informationskriget.se.
Information war, that's what it translates to. We'll have a link up to that. Yep, Bechir, give us your site.
Kristallklart. I was supposed to use the crystal clear, but it was already taken, so it became 50-50 English and 50 Swedish.
Swinglish,
Swinglish, yeah. And the main focus is the immigration and the anti-white agenda. That's the biggest focus I write about.
Excellent. Thank you for writing about that, by the way, and helping to wake people up. Same thing with you, Tobias, of course. Do you guys have any, I don't know, Facebook accounts or Twitters that you guys want us to link up? So if people listening want to get a hold of you guys or be friends on Facebook, do you have a Facebook?
Yeah, I have a Facebook. Just search for my name. I'm recently blocked on my main account because I went hard on the feminist movement. So I blocked for 30 days. But I have my backup account. It's like Bechir Rabani, not Bechir.
All right, we'll make sure to have a link to that. Tobias, you have a Facebook too, right?
Yeah, it's Tobias Lindberg, and I also have a backup account, and I was blocked, but I'm back now. So
I'm back, baby.
Tobbe.
Yeah,
Tobbe Lindberg.
Tobbe Lindberg. Guys, send me the URLs, if you will, or the direct address to these accounts, and then we'll make sure to link them up. So, folks, if you want to, reach out to the guys, just check on the program page for this show, and we'll have the links, kind of right there. All right, well, let's take a short break, gentlemen, and we'll be back with much more to discuss. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening.